Let's get straight into the build. The build is focused on doing as much damage as possible with the gas's overtime damage. What does the gas actually do? Well, it blinds and confuses any enemy that is affected by it, effectively making it a lot easier for you to just get away and maneuver around them. It has an armor pin of 7, meaning that it will do damage to almost everything, if not everything on the battlefield. The gas's overtime damage lasts for about 7 seconds, which is quite a large window, so you don't have to constantly be reapplying the gas to the enemies. The loadout is composed by the following. For my primary, I just went with the most comfortable kinetic weapon for me. In this case, it was the STA-52, since you do still want to do bullet damage to the enemies. For the secondary, I of course went with the P4 Senator, since you want at least one weapon to use against heavier armor enemies. This bad boy is your bread and butter when it comes to those Illuminate Halo Elite lookalikes. Now comes the fun part. For your nade, you want the G4 gas. You throw this bad boy in front of a group of enemies, and within seconds they're all affected and taking damage. For stratagems, you want everything that has to do with gas. That being the dog breath little drone boy that gasses all the enemies that come close to you without you having to ever worry about stopping to shoot them, and making it a lot easier to just run through enemies without being smacked around. The sterilizer, which is your main weapon when it comes to the higher tier difficulties. You just spray a bit of doom onto everything that is moving and move on with your day. In most cases, I noticed that all I really had to do was spray a bit, continue with my objective, turn around, spray a bit more, and most enemies tend to just fall over. Then for the last gas themed stratagem, we have the orbital gas strike. It does initial explosion damage and then releases a reliably long lasting gas cloud on impact area. You tend to use this whenever you want to cover a flank or just don't feel like using grenades or ammunition. Lastly, you want a stratagem of your choice for just raw damage output. I ended up liking the Eagle 110 rocket pods so that taking out bigger enemies was a lot easier, or just use the Eagle cluster bomb to take out hives and spawn locations. I would highly recommend you use an armor that has the perk Advanced Filtration so that you take 80% reduced damage by the gas. Without this, you will end up doing more damage to yourself than you will be doing to enemies. As for weight class of the armor, that is completely up to you. If you are running this loadout with some friends, I would recommend at least telling them to maybe use one of the new Killzone armors that has the acclimated perk on it so that they will take a reduced 50% damage to the gas that you will just be throwing out everywhere. As for boosters, this is completely up to you, but when running it solo, I found Hull Pod space optimization to just be the best. For the ship upgrades, the more you have, the better, but the ones that most probably have the biggest impact are things like donation access license to have fully loaded support weapons, in this case the sterilizer, and the 0G breach loading for faster cooldowns on the orbital gas strike, which also helps a lot if you decide to use an orbital strike instead of an eagle as your fourth stratagem. When I tested this loadout, I was mostly playing solo in Helldive difficulty and went through the objectives with a lot of ease, but I did notice this being more effective against certain enemy types compared to others. It did extremely well versus the Illuminate and quite well against the bugs, but when it came to the Terminator machine boys, it doesn't perform as well as I wanted it to. This is mostly due to the fact that the bots always keep more of a distance from you than the other two factions, making it a lot harder to force them into the gas or to train them around while they were confused. Don't get me wrong, the debuff was still very good since it made them miss a lot more and even shoot each other. It just needs a different playstyle when it comes to the bots. I hope you enjoyed. If so, leave a like and a sub would be insane. See you next time.